Chelsea travelled to Bournemouth on Saturday evening at 8 o'clock. And Andrew, it's a weird game, I thought. Tough game. Your thoughts?
It was more difficult than I was hoping it was going to be.
Yeah,
But Bournemouth have been on good form. It's the first game they've lost this season in the Prem. And I think they just make themselves very difficult to beat. And they did against us as well. They had a few pretty decent chances and didn't take them.
they had more than a few.
Unfortunately,
They had more than a few chances, to be fair to them.
they had more than we had, I think.
They should have scored.
But, winning when you're not playing particularly well is the best thing that you can be doing, I think. Well,
It's a side that we.
I like us to be playing better, but if
No,
we
I agree.
rack up points when we're still sort of getting to grips with things, and I mean, obviously Renato Vega had to play midfield because we lost a few midfielders through injury. So I think it's kind of the best we could hope for. I didn't realise quite how many midfielders were injured. I
Well,
think,
Lavia was already injured, and Enzo, I think, picked up a knock or something when he was on international duty. But to be fair, I assumed before I found out he was injured, I just assumed that they just didn't play him because of traveling and the time difference and stuff, which we noticed last year. He wasn't always the best after an international match, especially if he's going home to Argentina, because that's like what 11 to 14 hour flight, if I remember correctly, from when I went to Brazil. So yeah, and we had Zazie at right back because Gusto and
Gusto James are injured. I'm hoping they're back soonish, but
Gusto's back. I think Fernandez Lavia is now back after what only being available for 2 games, if that. He's back. Fernandez is apparently back, and Gusto's now back.
good.
So that's good. Um, yeah, I mean with Bournemouth, I thought they played really, really well. To be fair, they put us under a lot of pressure, but again, I don't think we helped ourselves with the pressure with regards to the lack of movement we were doing off the ball and the tempo. I thought our tempo wasn't as quick as it needs to be in certain areas and certain times, and therefore it invited the pressure, which then meant we were telegraphing our passes where it was obvious where the next pass was going to go, which allowed them to put more pressure on, which was disappointing to see because I think we could have done better with that, but it doesn't take anything away from Bournemouth and their game because, like you said, it's the first game they've lost all season.
Yeah, I think they're very good at working out. Well, I think they knew going into the game who they should be pressing and like when to trigger the press. And I think they pressed very well and stopped the out balls. They made sure that when they were pressing, they also had someone that was blocking the out ball, which made our life very difficult.
Yeah, I mean they were smothering Cole Palmer at times. He drew in a lot of fouls. So did Mark Cucurella. So did Madueke. I mean Madueke wasn't able to do anything in the first half due to the pressure they put on him and the way that they cut off the channels.
Yeah, it was. I found it very weird how they managed to have such a high press going on and also managed to have players pressing Madueke and there just didn't seem to be space anywhere. They did a very good job defensively. It might be one of those pitches that's quite small, which makes it a bit easier for them to
I
be.
can't imagine it being a big pitch.
No.
Because at one point when they first came up, I remember, I mean, years ago when they first came up, I remember there being a big chat about whether they'd actually even be allowed to play at their home ground because of the stadium size. And therefore, because it's such a small stadium capacity, that would suggest to me that it's probably quite a small pitch as well.
Yeah, you'd
So,
assume.
right, your first talking point, which I'm sure a lot of Chelsea fans will agree with this, and I mean, it was actually a big talking point before the game because they mentioned about the 163,000 signatures that are on this petition to stop a certain somebody refereeing our games is Anthony Taylor is an idiot. Please tell us more.
Well, I think he refed it so unbearably poorly because I think he let Bournemouth get away with a few early on that were a little bit forceful, a little bit late. Could have quite easily been a booking, which then kind of set the tempo for the game. And then all of a sudden he tried to rein it back in later on. And obviously it was Chelsea player. As soon as a Chelsea player commits a foul, then that's where we set the boundary. It's a yellow. I think what I found completely ridiculous was actually, I think we committed 2 fouls in the game that weren't punished with a booking. And both of those were probably the only ones that should have been a booking. So Cucurella got away with one when the player got beyond him, but I thought his first booking was incredibly soft. I thought Fofana's booking was very soft because the guy kind of like ducks into it and his arm kind of rolls up his shoulder. It's a bit of forearm, it's not his elbow. I thought it was harsh.
I agree with both of those. I thought the Cucurella one was a joke. I generally did. I understand why Fofana's been given. I understand why Fofana. I don't even think Cucurella's was even a fucking foul, let alone a yellow card. Fofana's, I get, because it's the whole face contact, but you're right. He doesn't go straight in for the face. It comes off the shoulder as he's trying to get in front of him and rides up, and he's moving his head and makes a meal out of it. I think a yellow's harsh unless he's just going with it's contact with the face, so therefore it's a yellow. But I agree on those two.
I think I've definitely had a conversation with Joe Pennell about penalties where players don't move. I think if the goalkeeper doesn't move and the player just kicks it around him badly, I don't think the goalkeeper should have to move out of the way when he's got his feet planted. I think the player should have to make some effort to run around him.
He makes no effort.
And he's given a pen, and I don't think that should be a penalty. But I think by the laws of the game, it might just be that should be a penalty in the laws of the game. But I don't agree with the fact that players can just run into players after kicking the ball around them and the other players can't get out of the way.
Put it this way. When I first watched it, I thought it's one of those ones where if you're a fan of the attacker, you're screaming for a penalty. And then obviously if you're a fan of the goalkeeper team, you're going, no way is that a fucking penalty. I just thought it was one of those 50-50 ones. When I then saw another replay straight after, I was like, actually, it's not a fucking penalty. It's not. He doesn't actually go
in basketball, and you go, hang on. If it's not a foul in basketball that way, then how the hell is it in football?
That's exactly what I thought it was. It's like a block charge in basketball. That's exactly how I thought of it.
And then even on the Sky Sport, I can't remember if it was after the game or just something like a video I heard afterwards. And they were like, oh, he just doesn't get his leg out of the way. We didn't. Why has he got to move out the way of the bloke that's he didn't challenge for the ball. He just got there and then stopped 2 yards in front of him, and the bloke decided to dink and then ran into him.
I disagree. He does go for the ball. He's actually made himself big.
What I mean is he hasn't gone to challenge for the ball in that he hasn't he didn't dive in to try and get the ball.
No.
He got close, tried to get there, realised he wasn't, stopped, and just made himself big. You're right.
But he does turn.
Got to get out the other way.
The funny thing is he's actually turning to go back, which is when the guy hits him. So actually, all he's done is he's actually moved his leg, not towards the player. If anything, he's moved his leg, the right leg that hits the player, away from the player so he can turn.
I didn't think he moved at all. I thought
the only movement he does is he's gone from this and he's going to this, and his leg's out because he's made himself big. So but what I'm saying is, if you look at the handball rule, if you're moving your hand away from the ball, it's not nothing.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is
So I was under the impression that he didn't move. I think
it's minimal. Minimal.
If you move, you almost cause yourself more of a problem because if you're moving, then in theory it makes it more difficult to work out if you're trying to block him or is incidental contact, whatever it is. If you stand still and the bloke runs into you, obviously, I just don't think that can be your fault. And I don't think he really moved.
It's minimal. I think his top half of his body turns, but his leg stays still. And that's he's turning that way to turn. He's not actually going to impede the bloke, but he doesn't change his line of position. If
But
that
where he is, yeah,
no, he doesn't move across. He's literally turning straight. He doesn't move across. Doesn't block him in any shape or form. Or was it whatever the fucking striker's name was? He runs into him and doesn't make a single change of direction to actually divert from
yeah.
clattering into our goalkeeper.
I think
It's not a penalty, and it's not a booking. Like again, it's not.
I think when it's when it's a penalty, it's a booking. I don't think you can give away a penalty these days without getting a booking. But I thought that was harsh. I thought it was justice that he saved it because I
Good.
thought
I was just about to say, good
absolute
save.
nonsense.
Good save.
Yeah, I don't have people slating the penalty as well. I don't think it was that bad a penalty. Was it a
It
great
could
penalty?
no.
No,
It
but
could be better.
it was a good. It was fine. Like it
Yeah.
wasn't. If the goalkeeper just happens to dive the wrong way, everyone screams about how great a penalty it was. But because he dived the right way, it was bad. And you're like,
It could have been more in the corner. It's not awful. It could have been more
no.
in the corner.
And it
But
wasn't like incredibly slow. Like he has hit it. Like it's
no, he's made good contact. He's
yeah.
made good contact. Yeah. I mean, it's a good penalty. It's not awful. It's not great. It's good. But no, I thought that would have been a massive turning point if that gone in. I just think with the pressure they were putting us under and the other opportunities, I mean, they could have scored a goal in the first 3 minutes. That one that pinged off the crossbar. I mean, they really did have their chances.
Yeah, look, I think we struggle when we go down a goal, big time.
Yeah,
Um, so I think that really would have changed the game, and we would have had to go for it a little bit more. And I think that's when we're going to struggle. I think Bournemouth worked out quite well that if you sit back and counter attack against us, you'll get a lot of joy, and they did.
yeah, and I mean, just quickly on Sanchez, I thought he made a lot of big saves in that game. He looked solid in that game. To be fair,
Yeah, he played
giving him
well.
a stick, but
I've never really had a problem with him as a shot stopper, particularly.
true, true.
I thought it was the ball at his feet. He made too many mistakes and caused us a lot of problems. And I think he didn't really cause us problems. There's a couple of times where he kicked it out, but it's not the end of the world as long as he's not giving it to someone in another shirt and giving a very good chance away. I'm not
Yeah,
too
I
upset
mean,
about it.
speaking of kicking it out or kicking it long into nowhere, because I mean Jackson made his feelings very clear about this in the second half to Zazie, but it wasn't just Zazie doing it. Some of the stuff from the defense in terms of the long ball, shall we say? I don't know if it was just to get rid or whether there was somebody supposed to be there. It seemed a bit aimless at times. But while we're on to Zazie, is this rustiness? Do you think, or is this just more he's not a right back and he's been having to play right back because of the injuries, or is it a sheer lack of quality? What were your views on the Zazie thing? Because he made a few mistakes. I don't think it was anything horrific, but they did seem to get a fair amount of space, and a lot of attacks came down their left, our right, with Tavernier, who I thought had a great game for them. To be fair,
He's a good player. I think with Zazie, he is what part of it is being out of position. He's not right back, and he's not someone that's used to defending against wingers. So defensively, he's not going to play as well as you'd hope that he would play. And in comparison to Reece James or Gusto, who over the last 5 or 6 seasons between them have been sort of two of our best players. It's like it's not going to be a reasonable comparison. I think also he's not particularly good on the ball, and I think that's where he lacks quality, and
he's
he's
not.
slow on the ball.
He's not.
And I think that isn't something that suits our style of play. So I do think his days are numbered at Chelsea, because I just don't think, with the amount of centre backs we have, I don't think that he's one that can do that.
Well, I think we both said he's the weakest one.
I think
Out of all the ones that we had at the beginning of this season before the transfer window opened, I think we would have both agreed that he was the weakest one that we had.
I think with the ball at his feet, he's the weakest one. I think Badashil, with his lack of consistency, has had some absolute shockers defensively. And I think as a defender, he is probably our worst defender at the minute.
Fair.
I do see signs of him. I think he's had more good games than Disasi, but I don't think defensively Disasi's had as many bad games. I think Disasi with the ball at his feet is always worrying, and that's where he looks rubbish.
Give you that. I'll give you that.
But we've got so many centre backs. So some of them have to go, and I think those are the two that probably end up going. I can't remember if Anselmino or something like that. I can't remember if he's left-footed. If he's left-footed, then I could see him sort of taking the back up to Colwell role next season. If he's as good as people rave about him. So I think both of them could have sort of their names on the door, kind of thing.
I mean, I agree. We said that we'd rather have Trevor Chalobah rather than those two. And to be fair, I also heard rumours coming out saying that the club wanted to keep Trevor and wanted to get rid of the other two because I think they realised that Trevor was better. But the problem was trying to offload those two to balance the PSR and stuff. But obviously, Trev's out on loan at the moment to Palace, so you never know. Maybe he will be able to stay, which I don't think would be awful. He is on loan, isn't he? I'm right in thinking he's
He
on
is
loan.
on loan. I don't think there's an option to buy either. I think
No, I think they are.
it'll
I
be
think
such a
they're trying to
bizarre
keep him.
thing though if he comes back. I don't get it. I don't know how you can isolate him the way that we did and then bring him back. I just don't think that really makes sense. I think what we'll end up trying to do is some kind of a weird swap deal between him and Mark Gehey if he has a big planet.
Potentially. I know Newcastle were after him. There's a lot of clubs that'll be after him, unless actually this what is now being titled as the because we haven't spoken about this because it happened all during the international break is the civil war between Bowley, Egbali, and Clearlake and whoever bloody hills on what side and not. Um, that will make things interesting when it comes to which players now stay and go and who's been doing what and who said what. So that could have an impact on that situation and many others moving forward.
Yeah, I think the bizarre thing that's come out is I was assuming it was Bowley that was getting too into the sort of trading of things. And from the sounds of what's coming out, it's not him. It's Igbali and Clearlake that are getting far too into the trading of players. Like they're treating it like it's the stock market, and it's not. That's not how it works.
I've heard a lot that it's Egbali's been the one that's been sticking his nose in the changing room a lot more and stuff like that.
Hmm.
I wasn't sure who was doing the transfers. In my eyes, it should be these new bloody sporting directors that we've spent God knows how much money on, and we wanted two, we've got two, and we've got the people below them now. I thought that was their job, but I thought Egbali was sticking his nose in at the training ground and in the changing rooms at games. But I didn't realize that he was the one pulling strings on the transfers. No,
Well, yeah, I think the rumours are that they get final sign off, or they've put someone in to get final sign off, so that effectively Clearlake get final sign off of any deals, which kind of makes me wonder: would we have even more players coming through the door if they didn't? But I I don't know. Everything's a bit shrouded in mystery, and I don't like it. I want one person that we can blame. I don't want two different parties that are kind of blaming each other the whole time. And I just want to know who's actually running the show.
I don't think even they know. If I'm brutally honest, I think that's part of the problem. I think there's too many people now, and everyone's going to start pointing the fingers at each other's. On a plus side, it does sound like they're picking up the stadium at the moment. You know, this new stadium. They're now looking at Earls Court again to build there, and they're looking at the original plans that Bramwich brought out.
But I
But
don't know how they can be looking at like I was caught. The whole thing about it, what I read was someone came out with their proposal for what was going to happen with Earls Court that didn't include Stamford Bridge or didn't include Chelsea moving there. And now all of a sudden we're looking at it and you go, well, it sounds like it's a bit late, fellas, because they've done the plans for it now and it doesn't include the stadium. So, and you've bought a load of houses around Stamford Bridge as if you're going to continue with the Stamford Bridge one. So, can we stop messing about and kind of go with one plan? Like, if we could just kind of plan what we're going to do and just execute it rather than like, oh, well, like we'll just keep our options open by buying some flats and some land that we don't need. If we move over there, and then we'll like go and plan over there, and then we might come back to the plans over here. And
I'm sure there's some loophole with PSR that they'll sell those flats and all that land to somebody else to
that is no, that is
yeah,
going to
so.
close, especially with what we've been doing recently. They will close it once it got rejected, closing that loophole on. I think the wording of it, where certain clubs were like, "Well, no, we still want to be able to sell certain assets that make sense that are like somewhat footballing assets." But we'll see what happens with that. I just think
It's messy. It's getting messier and messier at the time,
So
isn't it?
we still don't have a fucking front of like sponsor on the front of the shirt.
No.
And we're selling off like all our youngsters and buying in random fucking players.
But all of our, funny enough, all of our
And
monitors
they can
that
match.
we've got in front of the bench, apart
Yeah.
from play games, have got Infinite Athlete written all over them.
Well, I think they're still a sponsor, but I just don't think they're the main.
I don't know, mate.
There'll be some weird like data analytics part
Yeah,
or something.
we did
Uh,
we did sign a new tire sponsor though, who's an
nice.
official tire Chelsea. They're not on the front of the shirt though, unfortunately, but we've got a new tire
This
sponsor.
is not Yokohama anymore.
No, it's some other company. I can't remember what it was, but definitely wasn't Yokohama again. No. Right, moving on to the game. Um, Neto got subbed at half time. I thought it was a little harsh. I don't think he had a bad game. I thought he was playing with a nice tempo. I mean, I'm not saying he didn't struggle because I think a fair amount of the team struggled, if I'm brutally honest, with the way that Bournemouth were playing. Didn't really think he should
Look,
have
I
been
think
subbed.
we weren't we weren't playing particularly well, and we weren't really getting chances. I think something had to change. And if I'm honest, I don't remember Pedro Neto doing a lot, and I don't remember him doing anything. I don't really remember him good or bad. So I don't. In terms of, I don't think he deserved to get taken off. If you don't remember him doing much bad, then you kind of go maybe not. But I don't really feel like he was in the game that much.
I think the way that I look at it, you're right. He did struggle, but what I'd say is everything he was trying to do was with purpose and momentum, and he was actually trying to go through the gears. You know.
I mean, that's one I'm about to watch it back. I don't remember him doing a lot.
Well, that's the thing. I was going to say the same thing about Madueke in the first half. I just thought,
I remember Madueke getting fouled a couple of times, which means that he must have been doing something.
fair.
I don't really remember Pedro Neto getting fouled. I don't remember a lot.
What?
To be honest, even if he shouldn't have been subbed off, I think the fact that Sancho came on and did very well makes me think that we'll give Enzo the benefit of the doubt on that one because
No, I
he's made a
agree.
good sub at the end of the day. We've improved drastically in the second half purely because of Sancho, and I think everything in the second half where we looked better was all Sancho, like all
Yeah,
coming through Sancho.
yeah. I won't lie. As happy as I was also really annoyed with myself about that because I was this close to putting Sancho in my fancy league team this weekend, and in the end, I went with somebody else,
Uh,
and it
Where
didn't
you
work.
got booked and an assist, so it wasn't that many points. And
Probably
I
not.
think if you put him in and he got 1 point, I'd have been like, oh, he would have got zero if he didn't get the assist. And I would have laughed at you, to be perfectly blunt. I thought that would have been a ridiculous transfer to put in.
That's why I did do it. I was like, how many minutes is he really going to get? Is he going to have an
Yeah,
impact?
he was never going to start.
No, no. I knew he was going
So
to start. That's why
you
I didn't
kind of
do it.
then back and like
That's
maybe half
exactly why I didn't
an
do
hour.
it. No, but he did have a good game. I thought I was really impressed with him when he came on. Really,
Yeah,
really impressed. I thought he linked up really well with Cucurella. I thought it made a
yeah.
massive difference for Cucurella when he came on. I mean,
And
Cucurella had a good game in general, but when Sancho
yeah,
came on, it really, really helped that left hand side.
lucky to not get a second yellow though. I mean, the first one shouldn't have been a yellow, so I don't think he should have been sent off in the grand scheme of the game. But I think with the game where it was and the precedent that was set by the referee, I think he was quite lucky to not get a second yellow.
When?
When he ran through the back of someone, it was like Scott or something, their young player.
Oh, I missed that.
He ran through the back of them, and their manager was like livid. But I think he had already got a booking, or was like maybe he was booked after that because he got
Sancho got a
again.
booking for what was it? It was a free kick outside the penalty area. Can't remember who gave it away. It might have been Colwill. I think it was Colwill's one.
Yeah,
And then he's come running in and he's just gone speaking to
Anthony Taylor because
yeah.
we got the ball. Cole got
And
the
he
ball.
he did. Yeah, he did. It
It
was the one
shouldn't
where
have
he's
been a
coming.
booking. It's a
Yeah,
great
that's the
challenge.
one.
And
And
then they did one the other like the same the other end. Same level of contact. Might have got the ball, might not have done nothing. And you kind of go, well, it's the same fucking challenge. I don't get it.
anyway, one of the reasons that I brought this whole Neto thing going off was I saw another Chelsea fan on social media saying that actually they think that Neto should be playing on the right and Sancho should play on the left. And I want to get your views on that.
Um, I mean, I'm not really against it. I now, off the top of my head, can't remember who played the third midfield role.
Well, we had
Oh, it was Cole Palmer.
Palmer, Vega, and Caicedo in midfield.
I think it was Madueke, wasn't it, playing on the right?
Yeah.
For some reason, I thought Cole Palmer was playing on the right. I do think Madueke's done more than Neto this season. Maybe Neto is better on the right and should be given a chance on the right. We'll have a lot of games this season. I'm sure we'll get a chance to play both sides. But I do think when you score a hat trick against Wolves and you score against Servette, whereas Pedro Neto's got an assist for João Felix, I think
Madueke's had more
difficult to
game
replace
time as
him,
well.
right? He
Madueke's had more
has,
game
but
time as well.
and he's also played the pre-season with the team. Understand he's got built an understanding with Cole Palmer. I think at the minute overall, I would have Madueke playing right wing. Over time, I can
Argument,
see that going to Neto, but
the argument was is that he holds on to the ball too long and he doesn't look to like get to bring someone else into a scoring opportunity. He wants a scoring opportunity, and the resemblance was to Sterling. And what they were saying was is with Neto, he's looking to get the ball into the box to create something for somebody else, and they don't think that Madueke is really thinking that way, which I can see. Granted, he's got the goal, but that's because he had no one in front of him, and Palmer played some lovely balls into him, and he had every right to take those shots, absolutely, and he scored them, brilliant. But since then, I think he's tried to. I said it after the Palace game. I think he's trying to do a little bit too much in that game because of the hat trick, and that was kind of my thinking. Well, not today, but in the Bournemouth game as well. So I can see that point.
yeah, look, I think the bloke's got 4 goals this season already. He's built up a decent relationship with Palmer. It's not going to be perfect every game. I think it's harsh for him to lose his starting spot at this point already. I don't think Neto's done enough to really show that he should be in the starting 11.
That's fair, and that's the answer to the question. Fair play.
And I'm sure we'll get the minutes, and he should get a chance to play right wing. And I'm sure he will do with the number of games that we're playing. Madueke will be rested at certain points, and Neto will get a game. But yeah, at the minute, because the problem is Sanchez come on and done well, and it is kind of a toss up between Neto and Sanchez now. Not Sanchez,
Sancho.
Sancho. That's the one. My brain just went. Yeah, so it is kind of a toss up for me between Sancho and Neto. And I suppose it's like what type of game it is. I think if it's an open game, you kind of go with Neto because he's got more pace and he wants to take people on outside. I think if it's tight spaces, I think Sancho's a better bet. He's not quite as quick, but he is. I think he's a better.
He's great with his feet. His feet.
He's better in tight spaces and he's
Yeah.
better at finding that little pass.
Yeah.
That's what he impressed me with a lot against Bournemouth. And the way he managed to find Cucurella. The other point I'd make is at the minute we're not playing like a team that really wants to get the ball in the book. Like that, we're not putting enough players in the box to make these crosses worthwhile. The
Yeah.
only time that the crosses are really working is we break and everyone's kind of running towards the goal. If we're just crossing the ball in, it's not really working for us at the minute, except for maybe the João Felix goal against Wolves. Other
Well,
than
I
that,
would
it's
say
not
that
really.
we had more players in the box when Sancho came on, and Nkunku was on. Because I remember Cucurella pushing through a few balls in the second half, and there were players in the box. It just didn't quite
That's part
line
of my
up.
point. We
But
were doing that and it wasn't working because we
yeah,
were, for whatever reason, getting on the end of it. So you kind of go, well, great if Pedro Neto is good at that, but if it doesn't really work for us as a tactic, then and maybe it will do if we work on it a little bit better. And certain players need to learn where to be and what areas to take up. And Neto needs to get his head up. Maybe I don't know what the problem is. Or Cucurella definitely needs
well,
to
we
get
said the
his head up
same thing
even
last year as well. Yeah, but I agree.
more.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll see. I also don't know if he's left footed or right footed and whether
Yeah.
he'll start crossing it in Neto. If he's going to start crossing it in right footed, if he's
Thought he's
good
predominantly
with his right
left-footed.
foot.
I thought he was predominantly left-footed. I could be wrong.
Which then kind of goes if he's playing on the right, is he as good a crosser
Yeah,
with his
I
right
agree.
foot? So
It's definitely something that
I have
the
absolutely no problem with him playing there and giving it a go. I just think Madueke deserves to start at this
yeah,
point in a couple of games. That might change.
we will revisit that in a few games' time. I thought Nkunku made a difference when he came on as well. I mean, a little bit later in the game than Sancho did, but he did make a difference, and it was a good goal.
Well, he scored, yeah. I mean, in the
Well,
general player, I
it's
don't know,
not just the
but I
fact that
think
he scored; it's his movement, and he's stronger on the ball. Like he shrugged off two players in the box and found the corner.
yeah, I
It was
do
a
think
good
Jackson
goal.
had a few chances in that game. I do think out of the three relatively good ones he had, and Nkunku would have taken one of them.
Yeah,
Um, and I think that's been one of my criticisms of Maresca of not trying Nkunku up front because I do think he's our best finisher. And he's obviously come on, got himself a goal up front. So I do hope to see a little bit more of that, or maybe a shift in tactic a little bit. And that's I don't understand how we get all our best players on the pitch. I do think Nkunku will probably want to play up front with a player, or we need to get someone playing that centre attacking midfield that will get close to him, which maybe Cole Palmer can do, but he's at the minute drifting right a lot and sort of doubling up with Madueke, which will work quite well against Wolves. But I
you.
don't know. We've got a lot of players that kind of need something else that isn't quite this tactic.
I think it's a case of number one, you can't get all of our good players on the pitch at the same time,
No.
and secondly, I think it's a situation where certain players will have to play one way, and I think the other set of players will need to play another way because I think that's the strongest way for us, and also it's a great way to mix up the defense where you're playing a different way and you bring on different players, which I think we did a little bit when we brought in Nkunku and Yao Felix, but they were late subs. Um, but you are right. Something's still got to be tweaked up top.
Yeah. And it might just be the fact we need an out and out striker. I mean, realistically, if we got Haaland, it'd be unbelievable, this system, I think. But there's just not a striker out there like that. So we'll see what happens in the future. I think both our strikers need a bit more support. Like Nkunku and Jackson would probably play better together up front, but I think putting Nkunku in behind, you lose something in creativity for when teams do sit back. So, which a
What
lot of
about what about Yao? I see because I think this is what they're trying to do. I think they're trying to bring in Yao into that creative play when Nkunku goes up top.
I think it could work, but I don't think pass. Like I don't think he's got vision. I don't think he's. I think he gets blinkers on. I don't think he sees the pass very well or very often. I think he sees the goal and goes for it.
Well, this is it. I don't know if he sees it or whether he wants to go for the goal. He's got great feet. He's got great ability, and you are right. There are times where, and this is the thing. I'm going. Are you being a bit selfish, or do you generally just don't see it?
I don't know is the question, but I'm going to assume that he doesn't see it because otherwise some of them are ludicrous. I think there are certain positions where you wouldn't expect him necessarily to see it, and he hasn't. He probably hasn't had enough time on the pitch to really
Get used to where the players will be in the runs.
and to show like everything. I think when you're like coming on as a sub, you want to get the goal to sort of try and cement your place in the team and get a chance to start. And I think that probably plays into it a little bit. Um,
No, I agree. I still think, and I said this last season, and I'll say it again because I think I even said it at the beginning of this season. This is the issue that I have where because we got so many players, I would much rather have players who are looking for somebody to get a goal, not them specifically, but contributing by they're focusing more on assists. I don't think we have enough players that are really focusing on getting assists. Cole Palmer does it. There's a reason why we're all seeing Cole Palmer's praises because he does look for the assist, but he's also got the capability to get for the goal. He's our best player,
yeah,
and I
yeah,
think that
he has a good balance. I
he
wouldn't say
does.
we look at this, but he has a good balance where like
Yeah,
occasionally he takes a shot that you kind of go, well, you could have passed, but more often than not, he does find that pass.
exactly. and I'm saying that I think, and this is the thing that I've got. This is what I'm saying about Madueke. Could be wrong, could be right. I don't think he looks for that pass enough, if I'm brutally honest. And then it's about finding other players that will look for that pass. Same with what we said with Yao. Does he not see it, or is he just being selfish? We don't know. So it is about finding that balance, and that's more what I'm looking for at the moment. Not saying they can't ever shoot, what I mean, but
I think it's a difference between a good player and a great player. I think good players have a lot of ability and just kind of get something in their head of what they're going to do next, and they stick to it and they're stubborn with it. I think great players can kind of see what's going on in front of them and change their mind and make that pass rather than cutting and shooting. And maybe it will come with time where players get more used to other players. So they kind of go, well, my goal here is I'm going to cut in and probably go for a shot. But Jackson might be making that run across there. And then I'll consider whether he's in a better position or not. And they just haven't quite worked that out between them yet. But
potentially, and as I said, I don't think there was a lot of good movement off the ball again in this game, which doesn't help that situation.
no. No,
And for
really
me, there's no
enjoy.
excuse for that. There is no excuse for not making runs and being smart off the ball,
Yeah.
because it doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help anybody in the team. Doesn't matter what position you're playing. If you're not doing it, we can't get out of gear two, and I think that was a big problem.
Yeah, I think when you're struggling to really get harmony with players, though, I think it's easier to show for the ball than it is to sort of run in behind because they just don't know when you're going to run. So I
No, that's not necessarily you have to
I think
run,
there are
run all the
arguments
time, but
for it, but we need to, you're right, we need to commit to the system and work out the way that we should be playing.
even in midfield and even in defence, like there are opportunities where you could just try and do something. It just everyone's standing there looking, and it's just make a run, try and draw somebody away with you, or create a bit of space somehow. And we weren't even doing that, and that's where it doesn't have to be the best run in the world, but you do
Mm.
it with a bit of purpose. It can create something. It can create either an option or you're creating space, and that's all I'm asking for.
And again, I think that's something that Sancho did quite well actually when he came on. Like
Yeah.
he'd come short for it,
Yep.
play sort of a diagonal pass, and then he'd sort of run off in behind. But yeah, deserved his man of the match, Sancho. Even
He
though he
did,
played.
and I think if it wasn't him having such a good second half, I think it would go to Cole Palmer. If I'm brutally honest, I thought he had a good first half. He was moving off the ball, always looking for it, always asking for it. Didn't always get it, unfortunately, even when he was in the best position. And I thought Cucurella had a good game as well.
I thought Cougar had an alright game. I thought Cole Palmer was one of his worst games for Chelsea, but I genuinely think that most of the times he had any chance to do what he's good at, he just got fouled.
Yeah, he did. They
So
didn't really give
it's one of
him.
those where you can't really blame him, and that's partially why I
No.
think Nick Taylor had such a bad game because I think he was allowing Bournemouth to get away with far too much, especially in the first 20-25 minutes.
Yeah, they absolutely targeted him.
Mm.
100% targeted him, and why not? You can't blame them for that tactic, really. Right. I think that covers everything, to be fair. Don't you?
I think so.
Lovely stuff. Because we have been going on for quite a while. Anyway, thank you all for watching. Please like, share, subscribe, comment, hit that notification button, and stay tuned for the next episode, which I believe is West Ham away. Thank you all for watching.